If you had 6 hours a day to do whatever you wanted to do, what would you do? Would you learn a new skill? Spend time with family? Work towards improving your life? Or maybe just do the things you enjoy? If so, then congratulations. You're in the minority. Because the average person spends 6 hours a day staring at a screen, which, to be fair, can be productive and useful if you use it to learn stuff. But if we're being honest, I think it's safe to assume that most of that time is not well spent. Most likely it's spent consuming garbage content that gives us no value. Except maybe entertainment, which of course is good, but only in moderation. And this is something I know from experience, unfortunately. And I just want to share with you how it can have a negative impact on our lives. However, I first need you to really understand how big a deal it is to waste 6 hours a day. Because you might be thinking, that's crazy, I don't spend very much time consuming content. A few hours a day isn't very much. But that's wrong, and I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to use my average YouTube watch time every week. Or the amount of time I watch YouTube per week on average, I guess is a better way to say that. Which I knew was a lot, but when I went and actually looked into the numbers, it became really painful to look at. And to be clear, this is not my total screen time. This is just the time I watch YouTube itself. This isn't including all the other hours that I use my phone, or the many more hours that I look at my computer. So this number is actually a lot lower than my total screen time, which is unfortunate, so good job, me. And that's why I'm making this video. So the hours I watch YouTube on a daily average is 6 hours and 50 minutes. So let's say 7 hours to make it easy per day of just YouTube. In 1 week, that's 49 hours. I spend more hours watching YouTube than a full-time job. And 99% of the content that I watch doesn't benefit my life in any way. In 1 year, that's 2,548 hours, which equals 106 days. So let me repeat that. I spend 106 total days per year just watching YouTube. Once again, that's not total screen time. So in reality, those numbers are much higher. Now let's say I live another 60 years, hopefully. If I continue the trend that I'm on, it would add up to 6,360 days or 17 years of my life just watching YouTube. 17 years of what I consider wasted time. Imagine all the things I could have done in 17 years. So this means the average person spends around 16 years, roughly, of their lives staring at a screen. And most likely that time does not benefit their life. Hopefully it does, but more often than not, I would assume that the majority of people are watching content that doesn't really improve their lives. Now I get there's a lot of people who do watch content like self-development type stuff. And, you know, they learn things that do help improve their life. But even that kind of content, you can get stuck in the trap of always consuming and never actually taking action, which is something I've done and I continue to do. So I still put that into the category of not beneficial, even though at the time it feels like it is, because you're thinking you're learning something when in reality you're probably just procrastinating when you should be taking action. But that's a whole other topic, not for this video. So just let that really sink in. The average person spends 16 years or more staring at a screen. When I asked you, what would you do with an extra 6 hours a day? I was really asking you, what would you do with an extra 16 years of life? That changes the question a little, doesn't it? Hopefully you are way below average, but if you're not and you're like me and above average, not in a good way, then I think we really need to sit down and think about our actions and what led us here and what we need to do to get out of this place we're stuck in. And of course, I'm just speaking to myself, basically. You might not be in the situation, but I feel stuck in this cycle and I need to get out of it. There are probably hundreds of reasons why we choose to waste so much time. For me, it's a way to avoid getting out of my comfort zone. It's a lot easier to watch other people do cool things while I sit here in the safety of my home. I'm basically choosing to give up 17 years of my life, well, actually more than that, to live life through other people's perspectives, rather than shutting off the screen and living my own. Hopefully this encourages you to do the same. After this video, go and check your screen time and figure out how much time you waste. Then add it up over an entire lifetime and really let those numbers sink in. And then determine for yourself if all that time spent is worth giving up to stare at a screen and be entertained for a while. Once you do that, I guess the real question is, where do we go from here? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that, because after years of avoiding that question, I've finally worked up the courage to try and answer it for myself. Making videos is something that I've wanted to do for many, many years. But every time I get to the point of taking action and doing this, I freeze and end up running back to the habit of consuming content just to make myself feel better, which then, of course, makes me feel worse in the long run because in the moment it feels good to, you know, get the dopamine or whatever from watching videos on YouTube and avoiding doing the hard things in life that you need to do. I know that's not really helpful to you because I'm not giving you the secret answer of how to stop wasting time. But honestly, there is no secret. You just gotta make the decision and do it and just use your time more wisely. That's all there is to it. Easier said than done, but you gotta go through the hardship if you wanna improve your life. The thing I really want you to get from this video is how much of your life will you end up wasting if you don't decide to make a change? And are you okay with it? Maybe you are okay with it. Maybe you don't waste too much time when you're consuming content. Maybe you're learning things. This is more for the people who are like me and just throw hours away every single day not doing things that improve our lives. So if you're like me, just know that you're not alone. And if you end up wasting a lot of your time like I have, it's not too late for us.